Canary Street Press and HarperAudio present Beach Vibes by Susan Mallery, performed by Tanya Eby. 1. Beth Neild had no choice but to admit that her 67-year-old aunt had a much more interesting love life than she did. Actual living proof of that sad fact sat at their shared breakfast table, eating a high-fiber cereal while watching the morning news. Hunter was a still handsome 70-something who'd worked for the USPS his whole life, retiring with a very nice federal pension, but his real money had come from playing the stock market. She had no idea where the two had met, but this was the third morning this month she'd found Hunter eating a hearty breakfast after a night of, well, nothing she wanted to think about. Despite the fact that Beth's divorce had been finalized just over a year ago, she hadn't been on a date. As for spending the night with a man, well, she couldn't begin to imagine that ever happening. She'd been telling herself she didn't need that sort of distraction, and that relationships were more trouble than they were worth. But thinking about how happy her aunt was these days, she was starting to wonder if maybe she was wrong. Perhaps there was something to falling in love. Not that she'd ever had much luck in the romance department. Her divorce was proof of that. Her brother hadn't been successful in love either. Maybe there was a genetic flaw. Not anything she was going to think about this morning, she told herself firmly, as she put her breakfast dishes in the dishwasher and called out a goodbye to Hunter. While the Los Angeles metro area was known to be a nightmare, traffic-wise, Beth had what could only be described as a glorious commute. She lived a mere 20 minutes from where she worked, and the majority of that drive was along Pacific Coast Highway through Malibu. Yes, there were plenty of annoying stoplights, and on the weekends, visitors clogged the roads, but it was difficult to mind when just to the west was the Pacific Ocean. Although Malibu was known the world over, the LA-adjacent community was in fact much smaller than most everyone imagined. The actual population was less than 12,000 people, with the majority of the businesses and houses clinging to the coast. There were canyons and hills that stretched east, but the area everyone thought of when they heard the name was within a couple of miles of the water. Beth made the familiar drive with her windows open and the scent of the salt air brightening her day. The ocean was more lively today, with white caps visible out to the horizon and seagulls circling overhead. A light breeze danced with the palm trees. This early, the beaches would be relatively empty, but by noon they would fill with locals and tourists, all eager to enjoy nature's beautiful offering. When she pulled into her reserved spot behind surf sandwiches, the sight of the cheerfully painted one-story building filled her with fierce, happy pride. She might have bought the business out of a sense of obligation and a need to help her brother, but over the years, she'd grown to love the place. When she and Ian had divorced, he'd asked to buy her out of their house. She'd used the money to purchase the vacant storefront next door, and had expanded her business, giving her a much larger eating area for customers and a remodeled kitchen and prep area, not to mention additional parking. The latter was a precious commodity in always congested Malibu. She'd kept the surfboard rack and outdoor shower for her customers who came directly from the beach across the street, and had painted the outside the same bright, cheerful yellow she used on the logo. To make the remodel go more quickly, she'd closed for 3 weeks, giving her just enough time to second-guess herself and wonder if all her regulars would forget about their favorite sandwiches. But at the grand reopening, there'd been a line nearly around the block, and since the remodel, sales were up 38%. Information that would make any small business owner's heart flutter with joy. She unlocked the back door and walked to the newly enlarged employee space. Big lockers filled one wall, with comfy sofas opposite. During the refresh, she'd added a couple of sets of tables and chairs, and had upgraded the Wi-Fi. By giving up space in her office, she'd squeezed in a third bathroom, this one for employees only. It was barely 8 in the morning, 3 hours before the store opened, but Yolanda and Kai were already hard at work.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?